It's Talk Point again on Lagos Television. We're happy that you can also still join us at this moment. My name is Omololu Rosonwu. Today on Talk Point, we'll be looking at restoration of democratic structures back in Rivers State. Recall that on March 18, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu called for emergency rule, and that has to do with the problems that were actually in Rivers State then. There were political threats, there were unrest as a result of political parties, different groups fighting with each other, trying to jostle for power, and that has to do with the governor then and also some lawmakers. And of course, before we could say Jack Robinson on March 18, Rear Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas was installed rather as the sole administrator. That tenure is over, and on August, I said August, rather on 18th September, that was on Thursday, we also had democracy restored back to Rivers State. Governor Siminalayo Fubara is now back as the governor of Rivers State after 6 months, and also the lawmakers led by Martins Emeifule have also resumed as lawmakers in Rivers State, lawmakers in Rivers State. That is what we'll be discussing today, and I have a civil society activist and also a public affairs commentator, Nelson Ekujumi, who is also joining me in the studio to give analysis to this. Nelson, nice to have you on Talk Point.
Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon, yes.
Yes, from what I just said, the intro, you heard what, of course, it's no news to you that Governor Siminalayi Fubara has returned, although the lawmakers got back before him, a day before he resumed a day after. What's your own take on this now that democracy or democratic institutions, let me put it that way, have been restored, reinstated?
Well, thank you very much. Like I said, which I believe strongly in, is that the 6 months declaration of a state of emergency by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the restoration of democratic rule back to Rivers State on September 18, 2025, with the lifting of the emergency rule and the exit of the sole administrator, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, retired, like I've rightly mentioned, was a victory for democracy. It was about upholding the rule of law, because under Section 305 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, subsection 4C, the Constitution gives the President the powers to take, to declare a state of emergency and adopt extraordinary measures to restore peace, law, and order to any part of Nigeria under threat of war. And we all know that the crisis in Rivers State from around, was it July or August 2023, the governor was sworn in May 2023, May 29. And barely 3 months after being sworn in on May 2029, 3 months after, the governor became logged in an intractable crisis with the State House of Assembly. And the governor embarked on a lot of illegal and dictatorial excesses that even when the matter went to the High Court declared the governor as acting outside the provisions of the law. And the governor, being dissatisfied, approached the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal did not spare him, the stick. The Court of Appeal said that the governor was in violation of the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that the governor cannot abrogate the legislature, that it is not within his powers. And the court declared the action of the governor illegal, null, and void. The governor also appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court was the final nail on the scoffing of the actions of the governor. The Supreme Court said as far as they are concerned, democracy was not in existence in Rivers State, that the governor was acting like a dictator, which is an aberration under a democratic government. Yes, and that necessitated President, and the political crisis in Rivers State was degenerating into a national economic crisis, because you remember the governor was captured on video saying, "We will tell the boys when to strike."
Yes, to make the state ungovernable.
Yes, and before we knew it, they started bombing pipelines. About 2 incidents of pipelines occurred. Yeah. And you and I know that the oil industry, or Nigeria's oil facilities, oil structure, belongs to the Federal Republic of Nigeria and not Rivers State. And that necessitated President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in order to save Rivers State from degenerating into a total breakdown of law and order, to wield the big stick, because that big stick was the powers vested on him by the Constitution. And the big stick was wielded, and it lasted 6 months. The House of Assembly was suspended. The governor, as well as the deputy governor, was suspended from office. And we commend and we appreciate Vice Admiral Ibo Kete Ibas for the wonderful work he has done in restoring law and order to, because before then, it was Rivers State, one day, one trouble. We didn't know what could happen. But in the 6 months that Mr. Vice Admiral Ibas retired was in office, we saw that he restored sanity to the state. And that was why it was because of that atmosphere that prevailed that made President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to lift the emergency rule, to suspend the emergency. And also, don't forget that under the Constitution, even when Mr. President declares the state of emergency, the Constitution makes it mandatory for the National Assembly within 48 hours to approve. If the National Assembly approves by unanimous votes, yeah, or majority votes, that state of emergency becomes valid. But if the National Assembly rejects, it becomes invalid. It means it will not stay. But we also saw that within that 48 hours, the National Assembly gave their nod to Mr. President action. So it tells you clearly that the democracy we are practicing is one that does not give any arm of government absolute powers. The president on his own cannot declare a state of emergency. He needs the approval of the National Assembly to confirm or reject it. And because the National Assembly confirmed it, that was why the state of emergency stayed for 6 months. And the Constitution also gives the president the powers that if he's not convinced that law and order has returned, he can extend it. And even when he extends it, he has to go back to the National Assembly again for confirmation. But in this case, the administrator was able to restore law and order. And that was why Mr. President didn't extend it. That was why Mr. President terminated it, and the democratic institutions, that's the elected governor, the elected deputy governor, as well as the 31 members of the House of Assembly are now back in office.
Yes, it's good that we have given our viewers background, reminding them of how it all happened. Now, democracy is restored. What do you think are the things that the governor, the lawmakers, and also the political leaders should watch? Let's start with the governor.
Yes, well, the first thing I want to admonish the governor, I want to congratulate him that he has another chance. And I hope that the governor would have learned his lessons and put the past behind him. It is now left for him to recognize the indispensability of the legislature in a democracy. That as a governor, you must respect your oath of office. And your oath of office is to uphold the Constitution. And upholding the Constitution means according the legislature their due recognition where Constitution gives them the powers. That the role of the legislature is to make laws. The governor cannot make law. He can only implement. He can moot the idea of a bill
through executive order
and send it to the House for ratification, to go through legislative processes. So I hope the governor will come down from his high horse, because when this whole drama was happening, a lot of us were worried. The question somebody like me was asking that, who will stop Governor Fubara from this illegality as a backbone. Because we saw a situation where the governor said the House of Assembly exists at his own prerogative, and we said no. The House of Assembly members were voted for by the people of Rivers State the same way the people of Rivers State voted for you. So you are not the one that, the people that exist at your own prerogative are your ministers, are your commissioners, and your aides that you appoint. You have the power to appoint and to fire. But for people who got their mandate through the ballot box, they don't owe allegiance to you. They owe allegiance to the people of Rivers State who voted them. So I hope Mr. Governor Siminalayi Fubara will have matured in the last 6 months, because he didn't display conduct that is in tandem with that office he occupied then. But now he has another chance to rewrite history. And I hope he will recognize that the legislature is an indispensable part in a democracy. He will put the past behind him and work with the legislature to move Rivers State forward.
Okay, yes, you've given the governor advice, which I also agree. We also need to talk to the legislators too. There are certain things they also need to do. They need to respect the governor. They need to respect the people of Rivers State, and they also need to work in tandem with their mandate to ensure that good laws are made, to ensure that the governor also succeeds. Because if the governor succeeds, if all of them succeed together, the Rivers State will move forward and Nigeria will be the better. So what advice do you have for them?
My advice to the legislator is that they should put the interest of the people of Rivers State far above any other interest. The state has lost ground in democratic governance for 6 months. It is now left for them to do, to catch up. And I will admonish the legislators that in whatever they do, they should, do it in consonance, in tandem with the provisions of the law. They must be ready to accommodate the governor and seek a way of engagement with him, because the House is peopled by representatives from the various constituencies that make up the states. They should not, quickly engage in confrontation. I will appeal to them. They should try and buy the governor over to their side. And importantly also, the governor must recognize that as the governor, is the father of the state. So as the father of the state, he must be ready to accommodate, any excesses or any doings from the legislature. They should see themselves as partners who have been entrusted to drive the vehicle of Rivers State. And their goal should be to drive the vehicle safely to the destination desired, and not to cripple the vehicle and engage in combat, because the people of Rivers State have not given them mandate to go and engage in combat and confrontation. They are giving them their mandate. They have entrusted the mandate in them to improve the people's life. So we should appeal to both the legislators and the governor to see themselves as brothers that have a shared common destiny to deliver the dividend of democracy to the people of Rivers State.
Yes, having said that, we also need to look at those fanning the embers of discord, or that may want to fan the embers of discord. That's probably through the political groups, through various ethnic nationalities in that area. So what advice do you have for them and also the godfathers in the area? Because it's time down that they play down the issue of godfatherism so that the state can move forward.
I will just appeal to those who are, because as we speak, since the termination of this state of emergency by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in line with his constitutional powers, we have seen some people still drumming up the war, still beating the war drums. But we can only appeal to them. But there are lesser interests in this matter. The major people we need to appeal to is both the executive and the legislature, that they should not listen to any advice. They should be conversant with the rules of engagement. Where does the Constitution say my power lies in? Because a lot of these people are persons or groups who benefit from kiosks. And they always want there to be kiosks. That is where they feed from. When there's kiosks, only few people feed, only few people benefit. But when there's peace, progress, and prosperity, everybody benefits. So it is for those at the saddle of authority to learn to, turn deaf ears to advices, to incitements, to provocations by people who don't wish Rivers State well. I'm sure if they do that, and if they also recognize that there are some elders, both within and outside of Rivers State, that they can run to when there is issue to be addressed. Because as human beings, it is not out of place if they have disagreements. But disagreement must not turn to war. Disagreement should, generate to agreements that, okay, we have disagreement here, we have disagreement here. Where is the middle course so that our people can benefit? So my advice to them is the warmongers, they will continue in their trade. There's nobody that can stop them. That is their business. But it is for the gladiators to put those evil business people out of business by turning deaf ears to them, to let them know that the era of confrontation is over for us. What we are interested in now is the peace, harmony, and tranquility of Rivers State.
Yes, the lawmakers have demonstrated some of these things that you have said. They're ready. They're now telling the governor to represent the budget. They're telling the governor to present his list of commissioners.
Yeah.
Commissioners. So, in the light of this, what are your expectations in this area? Don't you think I know it's a constitutional thing, but I hope the governor and others are seeing it in that light, that it has to be done.
No, that is the responsibility of the House of Assembly. Because without legislative approval, the governor will just be taking a walk in the park. So it is incumbent on the governor to present the list of commissioners and his advisors, as well as present the budget of the state. Because the budget that the governor worked with before the termination of military, before the declaration of a state of emergency, was an illegal budget. If not that Mr. President is a man who wants peace in Rivers State. The lawmakers, you and I know what would have erupted if Mr. President had not willed. The lawmakers were hell-bent on impeaching the governor. And if they had impeached him, they would have tied the unconstitutional act of spending public money without appropriation. Because under the law, the governor does not have the powers to spend a kobo of Rivers State money without approval from the legislature. That is what the Constitution says. So if the legislators are now asking the governor to do the needful, it is only incumbent on the governor to play according to the rules of engagement. And the rules of engagement is that under law, the governor is expected to present his list of commissioners. That's how it happens everywhere in a democracy. Even Mr. President, you and I know, he presented his list of ministers to the national. The ministers even went for screening in the National Assembly, just like in states. Once the governor presents his list of commissioners, the commissioners will be summoned by the House of Assembly for screening, to be able to know that this man or this woman is competent enough, to assist the governor. Because the commissioners and aides, they are assistants that the Constitution has empowered to help the governor in governing the state. The governor alone cannot be the governor of Rivers State, running Ministry of Finance, Attorney General, Ministry of Sports, Ministry of Environment, and what have you. So the Constitution has made it mandatory for the governor to have helpers, and that is the commissioners. So the governor should be, by now, I expect the governor to be engaging with the necessary stakeholders on this list of commissioners that look, okay, we are going to present 20 commissioners. And don't forget also that in presenting commissioners, there must be equity. You have to recognize that the state is divided into 3 senatorial zones. Yeah. So there must be representation, adequate representation. Every interest, I'm sure the governor is not a baby. He knows what to do. And the House of Assembly also have the responsibility, to vet that list and screen the nominees to be appointed commissioners. If the House of Assembly reject a nominee, that nominee automatically will not be approved for commissionership. So the ball is now in the court of the governor. The House of Assembly have done what they are supposed to do. They have gone on break after transmitting that letter to the office of the governor. It is now left for the governor to start, dotting the I's and crossing the T's in preparing his list of commissioners.
Yes, according to the Constitution, as we round up now, we know that the governor still has a few months to elect, to actually draw up his list before he can send to the State Assembly.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that within that period, something will be done in that light. I want to thank you so much, Nelson Ekujumi, for being part of Talk Point today on Lagos Television.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, on that note, we have come to the end of Talk Point. 767 and 112 are still the lines to always call in times of emergency. Stay out of trouble. Ensure that you contribute your own quota to the development of Nigeria and also Lagos State. Do what is right. Ensure that things go well so that everything can be okay. I am Omololu Rosonwo, signing out.